In the current automotive scenario, there's a lot of confusion in the minds of customers. Should I buy a petrol? Should I buy a diesel? Should it be an EV? So what we are trying to do today is answer that exact question. If you're lucky enough to have a budget about 60-70 lakh rupees or so, here are 4 options that offer you 4 completely different kind of power plants. Let's not call them engines anymore. So you have first up the Lexus NX350h Hybrid. This is a strong hybrid, also has an EV mode, lots of promise, but how does it drive? How does it work? Is it really efficient? Second, we have good old diesel. Lots of torque, lots of driving fun with the BMW X3. Is it still relevant? What do you do about it when it goes above 10 years? That's the second option. Third, we have good old petrol, our favorite fuel. The Audi Q5 also offers you performance, refinement, 15-year-old lifespan. So there's a lot of promise there, but is that the future? Or is the future EVs? This, the Volvo XC40 Recharge, yes, I know it's slightly smaller than the other 3, but it'll be in a similar price range, and with its power, it's a powerhouse to drive. Well, let's find out what the future holds for us and which of these 4 makes the most sense in today's market. Of course, with the new power plants, the new propulsion, designers also get a lot of freedom when it comes to design. I'm just going to do a quick take on what I think of the design. The XC40 Recharge, well, the XC40 is a good looking car, but I think the Recharge misses out on an opportunity. There are 2 schools of thought on EVs. Some manufacturers think they should look really radical, some think they should look regular and just with small touches. So you see small touches like this grille, some recharge badging, slightly different wheels. But I think I do think the XC40 could do with a little more difference, with a little more something else, you know, sort of differentiated from its regular power sibling. The Q5, well, regular big Audi grille. It looks as Audi-esque as it can, and to me I think it looks slightly boring. Because I think with the second generation Q5, Audi went in for a very evolutionary development of design, whereas I think they could have done a lot more to make it stand out. The X3, well, it's always the same. The grille, something I don't like, but overall it's a decent looking car, looks good, has the BMW design touches, great tail lights, great look and profile, but that grille does put me off. And then I come to the best looking car in this lot, the Lexus NX350. One, I love that red color. I love most reds, but this is particularly striking. It looks fantastic. The big spindle grille works well. The black treatment, make sure that it's not in your face. 20-inch wheels give it very good stance, and it's got a lovely tail light design. So I think out of the 4, this would be my favorite looking car, and the Lexus definitely wins on the design. So first up in this test, I'm driving the petrol powered Audi Q5. Now you see, petrol has been around for so long. It was the fuel of choice for over a century, and it's been fascinating to see how the technological advancements have come into petrol engines, considering what they were in the early 1900s to what they are today, how clean they are, how efficient they are, and more remarkably, how much power they produce, like this 2-liter turbocharged engine. It's got 248 bhp, it's got 370 Nm of torque, and I have to say, with the automatic gearbox, it's absolutely a delight to drive. I got into the Q5, and like I said earlier, I thought Audi missed a trick with the exterior design. But when it comes to setting it up, when it comes to refinement, when it comes to chassis setup, it's absolutely set up fantastically. You actually don't feel the weight. It feels like a really light and nimble car that you can throw around. The chassis behaves very well. The ride comfort is very good. The gearbox functions excellently, and it just is a very good driver's car. It's something that you would really enjoy driving every day. But with petrol, with the exorbitant pricing of fuel that we have today, it is also the most expensive car to run off the lot. If you drive this enthusiastically, you are not likely to see more than 6 to 7 kilometers to a litre, and with petrol ranging between 105 to 120 rupees a litre, that's a lot of money to pay for your commute. And I think that's the only place where the Audi Q5 really loses out to the competition, because the inherent size, weight and The fuel efficiency means that it's the most expensive to run. But over the diesel X3, it has another advantage, which is that it has a 5-year longer lifespan. You can use the Q5 for 15 years without a problem. I would say that this would probably be the most well-rounded all-rounder in the segment. It's got a decent interior, decent amount of space, great to drive, only loses out on looks and the running cost, but still a very, very strong product. Moving on from petrol, we are now in the diesel-powered X3. Of course, there are other cars in the segment that are also diesel-powered, but as we are seeing, the government is making a push towards, if not completely banning diesel, but making it unviable to buy cars, making them a lot more expensive. And that's strange, because diesel, while it's been around for a very long time, really came into vogue in the 70s when manufacturers, European manufacturers particularly, started working on making their diesel cars more refined, more powerful and more efficient. So one fun fact, a diesel engine compared to a similar size petrol engine will always be more fuel efficient. That's what the design of the engines has been based on. It's a much more efficient fuel, and as a result, the fuel efficiency you'll get in, let's say, a diesel powered X3 will be much higher than, let's say, a petrol powered X3. So the differences can even be up to 50% or more. In fact, in an X3, if you drive normally a mix of urban and highways, it's easy to see fuel consumption figures of 12, 13, 14 kilometers to a liter, which also makes it one of the most cheapest to run cars, when it comes to fuel costs in the segment in this test also. And diesels also have one secret trick up the sleeves. With turbocharging, they have a lot of torque, like the X3 has 400 Nm. And there's another secret sauce that BMW has done. The 8-speed automatic gearbox that they have for a very long time has been the best gearbox in the world that I've driven. Paired with their engines, the gearbox tuning is so good that you are never forced to use the paddles to shift the gears manually. It just instantly shifts gears, and with the 400 Nm, it makes the X3 an absolute delight to drive. This X3 also doesn't have very stiff suspension. The 18-inch wheels help there, and so it's a car that you can use in all conditions. And trust me, with its communicative steering, with its gearbox, with its engine, with the power and torque delivery, it's probably the best driver's car in this test and in its segment, barring the Porsche Macan thing. But otherwise, it's just so fantastic to drive. It flows along the road, and if you're going on long journeys, it's a car that you really enjoy. The downsides, well, the biggest downside is the government policy now of the 10-year lifespan. So you can only use the X3 for 10 years, after which it is supposed to be off the road and deregistered. And that's going to be a serious dent, because you're paying over 70 lakhs for this car, and only being able to use for 10 years does deter a lot of people, and you can see why. Because in today's modern cars, a life of 15 to 20 years is very easy to achieve, but our government regulations are strange. So that's the X3 for you, the best driver's car in the segment, very efficient, very cheap to run, but the compromise is the limited lifespan. From diesel, we move to the latest platform of the four, electric. Well, you see, there's something you get with the Volvo, which is a cutting-edge electric platform. It's got a big 78 kilowatt-hour battery. It's got loads of power and torque, 408 bhp, 660 Nm, in a car that's under 4.5 meters long. In fact, the XC40 is a size smaller than the other three, but it does come with the latest technology. So there's a compromise there that you make, but what you make up for with the XC40 is I hate to say this terrible pun, but the performance is electric. It really flies. That 660 Nm means acceleration in the Volvo is mind-blowing. In fact, you have to recalibrate your brain at times if you use more than half throttle, how quickly it accelerates and covers distance. It makes overtaking a breeze, whether you're on a highway or in the city, because the instant torque from the electric motors really fires you down the road. While many other electric cars don't offer you very good range, the Volvo does. The claimed figure for the Volvo is over 400 kilometers. But what we've seen on this long trip and previous tests with the car is that it's easy to achieve between 300 and 320 kilometers. And even with a heavy-footed driver like me, at least 300 kilometers is easy, which means that for most commutes, actually the Volvo is more than sufficient. You've got no problem. The problem starts when you take it long distance like we have. And I have to tell you, despite whatever people might tell you, range anxiety is a real issue. Where we are right now, our next big charging station, or rather a fast charging station, is about 110 kilometers away. The car is showing me 160 kilometers, which makes it easy for me to reach there. But as the numbers trickle down, it does start working on your brain. It does bring about some anxiety. So, and you know, but that's not a problem with the car per se. It's more a problem with the fact that we don't have a very viable charging infrastructure right now. So that is one of the things that you have to consider if you're looking for an electric car. Second thing, yes, with the Volvo you get a big battery, latest technology, all-wheel drive, twin motors, and good range, but it will also come at a cost. I expect the Volvo to cost above 70 lakh rupees when it's launched next month, and that's the money you pay there is for the technology. The compromises is the fact that it's slightly smaller, and I have to say, after the Lexus, after the BMW, after the Audi, the XC40's interior doesn't feel that special. It's not supposed to. So that is something that you'll have to consider. You will be paying for the technology, and as long as you're comfortable paying for the technology, you should be willing to make these compromises. Overall though, if charging infrastructure for you is not a problem, if you can charge at home and long outstation trips are not too many, the XC40 is a very tempting proposition. It's great to drive, it's great to look at, and with its 300 kilometers of range, very practical. And from electrics, we move on to hybrids. This is the technology that I've widely regarded for a very long time as something that would be ideal for India before we move to EVs. You see, hybrids are much cheaper to produce than EVs. They also offer you significant efficiency benefits. That means that you have lower running cost, you get a similar driving experience, and biggest of all, you don't have to set up a new charging infrastructure, because petrol hybrids, you just fill petrol at a regular petrol pump and they can offer you significant efficiency benefits. For instance, the NX350h is powered by a 2.5 litre Atkinson cycle engine that's supplemented by a dedicated battery pack, electric motors, which makes it all-wheel drive. It's got 243 bhp, and while Lexus does not reveal the torque, it's got ample performance. 0 to 100 comes up in 7.7 seconds, which is fast enough. Not the fastest in the segment, but not slow either. And efficiency is massive. I mean, even with petrol, if you drive this thing sedately, you take it easy and you've got a mixed commute, it's very easy to see 15 to 16 kilometers to a litre in petrol. And that's massive, because no other vehicle in this segment gives you that kind of efficiency, that kind of running cost. The only car that really competes with the low running cost is the BMW X3. Of course, the XC40 running cost is going to be something else, but I'll come to that later. So the NX, also another advantage the NX has is that it feels special. When you look outside, it looks special. When you get inside, this is easily the most comfortable, the most plush, the most luxury interior in the four cars. It's got big seats, it's very well made. This 14-inch display really pops in front of you. It's got Apple CarPlay now, which is a late adoption by Toyota and Lexus. The Mark Levinson sound system on this sounds sublime. And you know, if you spend time in the car, you just enjoy the luxury and the comfort it offers. However, with the hybrid also has an eCVT, and that's where the Lexus NX loses out a little bit. The driving appeal is not as good, especially when you get into the BMW or the Audi or even the instant torque of the Volvo. The NX, the gearbox stretches on a bit. You have to really prod it. It's not slow again, but then you have to make it work. You have to really give it the beans, and then it starts going faster. And the other thing, when you're really pushing it on, because of the eCVT, the engine's quite loud, so the refinement is not as good, and that's surprising. I would have thought that Lexus would be the most refined, but it's not. It's a interesting matchup between the other three, the Volvo, the BMW and the Audi, but this is certainly not the most refined. Where it wins? Well, the design, the interiors, the equipment list, and the low running cost, the efficiency. It's also competitively priced for the amount of features it offers, but it does lose out on the driving experience a little bit. So that's a compromise you make, but I think that compromise is somewhat compensated for by how fuel efficient it is, and it has a dedicated EV mode. Like right now I'm coasting and the engine's turned off, the car's running only on EV. At slow speeds, when you're parking for small distances, the car will run in EV mode, and especially if you do a lot of traffic, if you do a lot of urban areas, that's something that will significantly bring down your running costs and your fuel consumption. Now, taking these 4 very different cars out on a long road trip has been great fun. We've taken them on fast highways, on curvy roads, we've even taken them on some dirt tracks. As a result, you can see what's happened. And that was to test the suspension, see how the ride comfort is. Now, of course, I should give you a verdict about what to choose and how each of the technology functions. And I think first up, I'll talk about the Audi Q5. It's probably the best all-rounder, rather the most reliable option of this segment. It's a car that's petrol powered, you can keep it for 15 years, it's great to drive, and if there's something to fault it over, I would say the fact that it doesn't look as special as it should. Second is the diesel powered X3. Diesel, of course, the government has now decided is the devil's fuel, and they're going all after diesel powered cars. But the X3 has benefits. It's probably got one of the lowest running costs along with the Lexus, and it's still great fun to drive. It's a true driver's car. The low end torque really helps, and the gearbox is phenomenal. But the 10-year cap on its life will deter some customers, and that's a compromise you have to make. Third, the Volvo XC40. Now that's a great technology party piece. If you want to tell people you are worried about your carbon footprint, at the same time get a car that's blisteringly fast, the Volvo XC40 is for you. That 660 Nm instant torque really hits you. Like I said earlier, you have to recalibrate how you drive, but it's not a value proposition. EVs are still very expensive, and it'll take time for them to come down to a similar price level as petrol diesel cars, and that's a compromise you make. It's a slightly smaller car, it doesn't feel that special in the interior experience, but it is special to drive. Which comes to the Lexus. Well, I would have to say this out of the 4 would be my pick. Yes, there are compromises, but it looks great inside and out. It feels fantastic, the quality is great. That Mark Levinson sound system. Yes, the BMW has a better driving experience, and the Lexus could do with a better transmission, but the overall package, especially when you look at the fuel efficiency, the low running cost, and those stunning looks, I think tick all the boxes for me. So we've given you a snapshot of all 4 technologies: petrol, diesel, hybrid and electric. Which one is your favorite? Which one would you pick if you had the money to spend? Tell us in the comments below.